There we go. Morning, everybody. It's good, isn't it? Hello, everybody. Well, it's just after 9, so we could make a start. Hi, good to see you all. Sorry, I'm sitting in the dark, but it's November. The window in front of me is just not letting any light in. How are we all?
Very well, thank you.
Surviving.
Yeah,
yeah, not too bad. Thank you, Nikki.
Yeah. Well, we're here. We're back. As I said in my note, I'm carrying on Wednesday mornings, although I have now been persuaded to have another go at running a beginner's class at Kenilworth. So these will probably be coming from Kenilworth next year. But we'll keep it on. We'll keep it going. Just to report, our numbers are good. We've got people coming back to the tables in droves this month. And we've got people reappearing for our gentle practice session who we haven't seen for a long time. So I have to say, I think October's been quite good after a quiet September. What else? I've been changing the way I take statistics. So I'm just doing the last of the old updates and then I'm going to switch it to a slightly different base. But I've been picking up average table numbers now when I visit sites. I've decided to visit them less often, but pick up more detail. And I'm just beginning to have some data on that. It's very early days though, but I'm just beginning to. But one thing I have noticed is that web traffic on active websites, visitors to sites is up, noticeably up on about 2 years ago, I think was when I last took it, which is good news. How things with Nick?
Pretty good, thanks. What are we experiencing? Yes, people are coming back, but not in the numbers that were pre-pandemic, I have to say. Reality is that people are playing on BBO, so we have sort of a divided group in a way. Some people have gone to BBO and haven't come back face to face, but there has been a drift back, which is good. We're an unaffiliated club, or at least Kelsall is an unaffiliated club. I speak for the Diva as well, which is an affiliated club. But we also find that people that were coming into the club, for instance, we used to have a sort of Chicago session. A lot of those people have gone to casual BBO. So it's a bit of a mixed picture, to be honest with you. And I don't know what to say more than that. I'm sorry, my telephone is. That's good. The wife has answered it. Good. Another thing that worries me slightly is that we play in a community centre. Now, a lot of small bridge clubs play in village halls and community centres, and a lot of those village halls are struggling at the moment. Increased costs, and if bridge numbers are down, then I know of several small clubs who are threatening closure, simply because numbers haven't come back as well as they might have, and the fees, the rental fees in the halls have gone up, and they say, well, we can't stand any more increases in total money, and so on and so forth. So we've got that going on in the background. What else to say? I had an interesting conversation, by the way. I have a friend who's who's a TV producer, and I was saying to her, look, I said, what can we do about promoting bridge? You know, because, and it was very interesting. She said to me, she said, well, of course, you can forget about mainstream television because it doesn't work. She says, what groups like you do is you use social media, and what you do is you use things like YouTube, and there are all sorts of groups that promote themselves by creating, let's say, some sort of challenge. Like, for example, you get a couple of celebrities who don't play bridge, and you give them a month of intense lessons, and they have to compete in the county championships at the end of 1 month. You know, it's that sort of thing that you do to try and promote the game through social media, and rather than trying to do things in the sort of mainstream way. I thought that was quite interesting, actually.
Yes, I think so. Yes. How about you, Bob? What are you seeing?
Well, at Winchester, the face-to-face has recovered really well, and we've had a steady return to about 90% of the attendances we were getting before. We're getting about 8 tables regularly twice a week now, on Tuesday and Thursday evenings, for our main duplicates. Some of our members have sort of drifted away either to online or stopped playing at all, but we have had quite an intake of new members, which is very encouraging. Some of them from outside, because other local clubs have not been so successful or have decided to just stick with online. But we're finding that face-to-face is really popular. People are really glad to be back and able to socialize. So, you know, we're having a Christmas dinner in a couple of weeks, and that's fully booked out. Originally, we restricted it to 40 people, but now so many others wanted to come, it's we're going to pack in about 50. So that side of it's going really well. The online hasn't been quite so popular as it was when face-to-face wasn't doing well. So we've now cut one of our weekly online sessions. So we only run it once a week instead of twice. We're still getting 4 or 5 tables for that. So everybody seems to be fairly happy. We've managed to chase up people that we haven't seen for 2 or 3 years, and some of them have said they're coming back. Unfortunately, our problem seems to be more with finding directors, because some of them have more or less forgotten about directing, and they've been loath to come back for health reasons. So we've managed to arrange a course with Mark Humphries for early next year. I think it's going to be in April, probably. That's about the best we can do. So that side of it needs to be addressed. And we're also looking very much at the teaching side, because our original club teacher has become so happy with online teaching that she doesn't want to do face-to-face anymore. And we feel we ought to offer face-to-face as well, and have a full mix available, if you like. Some people prefer one rather than the other. So things are looking up and there's plenty going on in our club, but around the rest of the county, the picture isn't quite so rosy, I feel. You know, we hear of other clubs that are struggling and reverting perhaps just to online or even closing down. So that's rather sad. But from the club point of view, all's looking good. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. How about you, Jim? What are you seeing?
Well, generally a reasonably rosy picture, I would say. It's on the up. Everything is increasing slowly, but it's in the right direction. We have not picked up to pre-COVID levels on our regular sort of experienced players club night. We're up to about 6 tables, maybe 7 sometimes, when we used to be 9 or 10. But it is on the way up. What is doing really well is our teaching sessions, face-to-face teaching sessions once a week are very well attended, and people are very enthusiastic. But I think it was quite interesting last week when we listened to when we had the EBU session. Some of the comments really rung bells with us about what we're experiencing too, that people who come into Bridge really want to play with the people they've learned with rather than move up to the full club session. Some will, but it's in small numbers. And so we're recognizing that, and we're putting on a session once a week for the less experienced players, a more relaxed duplicate, and that's also popular. So it's quite interesting that since COVID, and we've accelerated our interest in activities in teaching so much so now that we've got pretty as many as half our club now are new players. Our regular experienced club players have declined slightly since pre-COVID, but we've replaced those with a lot of newer players, and they're getting very enthusiastic. So I'm quite optimistic about that. We're trying an experiment next week, and for our next Monday session, we're putting on a special relaxed duplicate for the new players and the experienced players to all meet together. And we've asked people to book in, and we've already got about 11 tables worth, which is great. And we're giving them free wine and mince pies as well to encourage people to turn up. So I hope that will break the ice a little bit, and some of the newer players will feel less intimidated about coming along to a regular session. Even if it doesn't, it's an end in itself, because it's a good exercise, and people enjoy the social aspect of Bridge. Online, we're doing okay. As you might recall, we didn't go into online ourselves as a club when COVID started. We joined together with 2 other clubs to form a consortium and ran online sessions. 5 a week we got up to at one point. Now we've reduced that, now that face-to-face has started again, and we're now running 2 sessions a week, 2 evening sessions, one on BBO and one on Real Bridge, and they are pretty popular, and they're certainly easily paying their way. So both face-to-face and online, we're getting easily enough activity to pay for ourselves. We're actually making a small amount of money as we're going along, which is great. Yeah. Okay. So overall, I think I'm feeling reasonably optimistic, I think. But if there's one lesson out of the whole thing is, if we hadn't decided to become a teaching club and gone into that enthusiastically, then we would have inevitably been seeing a slow decline to disappearing, I would have thought. But it's the other way now, so that's good.
That's great. We've just been going around, Jane, saying how things are going for us, and people are generally quite upbeat. How is it from Kenilworth's point of view?
Oh, well, we've had a couple of personal bests for attendances at a couple of sessions, like 16 tables. Pre-COVID, we were getting 25. So, 16 is pretty good now. We're still struggling, and I'm still getting complaints from the few better players, and that's a difficult definition, who've returned to playing in club, who wonder where all their colleagues have gone. And they are the people unfortunately for them, they have not taken to online play, and all their colleagues have gone to online. And we just don't seem to be able to get a big enough core of stronger players. So that's a little bit disappointing. So it's still got very mixed ability groups, which isn't terribly satisfying for either end of the spectrum. So I'm just going to go and kill that dog. Excuse me a minute. Pass on to someone else.
Sorry, like,
How are things with you, Reg? Go on.
not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, very late this morning, technical problems. Yeah, club's doing okay. So yeah.
That's brilliant. How's it in Croydon, Tony?
Where's my mute button? Unmute.
You're not.
No, you're not muted. We can hear you.
Oh, I'm not muted. I thought I was muted. Up and down. The daytime session today is going up and up. The other ones are sometimes doing well, sometimes doing not so well. Saturday afternoon is getting very close to is it worth keeping on, but we've just seemed to have had unavailability, and we've just started some lessons, and we've got a few more starting in the new year, but we definitely need more players. I was going to say, with us, it's the better players who've tended to return rather than the weaker players. Average NGS score has probably gone up from sort of 48 to 51 at each session. But we're running off today, maybe 6-7 tables, which is not bad. And Thursday night is, which is the best of the rest, is 4.5 at best usually. So we definitely could do with some more.
Right. Okay. I'm guessing Samantha's iPad might be Sam Punch. Is it you, Sam? Do you want to just say hello?
Hi, yeah, sorry, I'm trying to convert to my laptop, but I'm having a few issues here this morning. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
I will try and I'm trying to get into the laptop right now, but
well, welcome to the meeting.
Yeah, thank you. No, I mean, one of the reasons I've come back today is because I haven't been in Scotland for a while, and I've just returned, and I went back to Stirling Bridge Club and was somewhat dismayed to find 2 to 3 tables rather than 12 to 13 in the evening. So I thought I'd come along to this club and see if I could get some top tips from you as to what should they be doing to increase their numbers. It's particularly in the evening. I think they're not doing quite so badly in the afternoon sessions, but their evening sessions are extremely poorly attended right now. So I don't know if any of you have any advice that I could pass on to them.
Well, if it was me, I'd say move to the afternoon. We haven't done an evening session since before COVID. I think an awful lot of people do stay at home on a dark night and prefer to play online if they can. It's funny looking around at numbers, which I've done a lot more lately. I've been surprised how high they were in the clubs that I looked at, but I do tend to look at the clubs that are active. So I think that might be right, because like everybody, I'm hearing stories of clubs that are getting 2.5, 3 tables and thinking about packing up. Sort of 2 things that have come up that would be good to discuss. One was the EBU seminar, which I thought was the best yet by a long way. And the other is table money. I've been looking at table money and picking up data. Again, I haven't got a lot yet, but I was surprised how low table money still is. Still a lot of clubs doing £1, £1.50. It's just not enough, guys. I mean, we are £4.50. I made that decision when we came back from COVID, and I never had a word's complaint. I thought I would, but I never did. And it's made an awful lot of things much easier. And I wonder if we shouldn't try and campaign clubs, just put £1 on your table money now, you know, to help out your halls and things. I don't know if you heard it, because Radio 4 ran a little article on item on village halls and how they were struggling with energy costs and so on. Yeah. And I've just got the numbers for the next year from my village hall, and they haven't put it up enough. You know how it is. I was expecting quite a big increase. and they've only put a couple of quid on our room rate per session. And you know how it is when you get this urge and you think, I'm right, Chairman, I just say, look, for goodness sake, put a £5 on, you know, because we can afford it. And I don't want you guys to not be there. You know, I really don't. It just didn't seem like enough to me.
I think that's right, Nikki. While we're still in COVID, but planning to reopen face-to-face, we did a detailed survey of all our membership. I got a pretty good return rate of that. And one of the questions we asked was about how much people were prepared to pay. And the overwhelming response to that question was, we don't really care very much about how much we're paying for table money. It's not really important. What is important is we've got a well-lit car park close to the premises, and that we got a comfortable big room, and that we get enough table numbers, and also nice refreshments and so on, tea and coffee and things. Table money didn't really seem to come into it at all. Now we're charging £3, and we used to be £2.50. But that's okay for us, because at that level we are easily washing our face for all our sessions. We could put it up if we needed to, I'm sure. We've got a fairly big group of people who have learned through U3A, and their model is completely different, because they pay an annual subscription and then all their sessions are completely free. So when they come along to us, they have a jump from free to paying a fee to play. And even at £3, we've had nobody at all jibbing at that. Very happy to put the money in. So I think you're right. We can afford to put money up if we need to.
Yeah.
Can I just, do you charge a membership fee as well as the table money, or do you just table money, but pay as you play?
Well, we charge an annual subscription. We charge £20 a year annual subscription, additional to the session fee. We've got a reduced membership fee of £10 a year for the new players, and they can have that for up to the year they join, and one further year before we ask them to join as full members.
We're doing something very similar. If students are joining, people learning, we don't charge them the subscription for 2 years until they've done 2 years of lessons, and then we do £20 a year and £3.50 table money. How much do U3A charge to be a member of U3A?
I think it used to be £30. I think it's been up to £35 a year.
So you pay £35 a year and you get to play once a week for free.
You can then use all the facilities that U3A provide, which includes bridge, but it includes anything else, all the other sessions that the U3A offers. So if you want to go and learn to play the ukulele, or go on a walking group, or a photography group, or whatever else you want to do, it's all in with the subscription. Bridge is just one part of it.
Because it tends to be self-resourced. Their ethos is it's members that teach things to other members, isn't it?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I think there's a sort of permit to charge up to £1 that's meant to cover refreshments, but I know in rugby there's been 2 or 3 U3A groups, and they've usually been in big private houses, so they haven't had to pay for a venue. I was going to ask you, Jane, if you're able to say what you decided about the U3A group in your town.
Well, we haven't yet, because listening to, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, the gentleman with the cup who's just been speaking.
Jim?
Yeah. Sorry, because you'd said how closely you've been working with U3A, and we've only just really started to look at the possibilities, because I gather a while ago they approached our club to see if they could use our facility instead of they must rent a hall, and at the time this was declined. And so we're in the process now of looking at, although they haven't come back to us, and they may well be interested, having been snubbed the first time, we were just having a quick look at the numbers and how it would work out. And also from sort of insurance wise and trading mutually, where we're only really supposed to provide services for our members, and these people wouldn't be members. So we're just working our way through that. But it'd be difficult for us to allow U3A to run a session in our club if they're not charging, because our own members would want to go to that then, and we're charging £3.50 when they turn up. It's an awkward. I can see why it was turned down the first time when they approached, but I also took on board what you were saying about, you know, encouraging them, and they're another source of membership in the longer term, you know. So
Yeah,
I think that's right. I think every U3A will be different all up and down the country. It just so happens in our area, they had been teaching beginners and an improvement class for years and years and years and years. And the people had gone to that and then dribbled away and then not taken bridge any further, for most of them. And now that we've got together and formed a more formal association, we have a continuum of learning, starting with U3 and then coming up to the club for intermediate lessons. And that's working extremely well. And we run joint gentle duplicates as well, where we invite U3A players who are not members of the club to come along as well. And they just pay a table money on the door in cash to come along. And they're very popular too. So getting the two together has been a great boon for us. It also gives us a chance to contribute to the course content that the U3A were teaching, because what we wanted to do was make sure that they weren't teaching stuff that wasn't sort of consistent with modern ACOL and the way we're teaching bridge. So they have modified their teaching content so that things are more continuous. People don't have to unlearn something and then learn something else when they come to us. So all that has worked very well. And I think without that, I think we'd have been struggling more.
yeah, do they have their own teaching scheme then? They don't use
Yes, they're volunteers. They have their own teachers, but we've actually got those teachers to come and join our club as well. So we actually have a regular discussion with them. In fact, one of them is actually now a member of our club committee.
Oh, that's good.
So we're trying to bring things as far as possible together and make it seamless.
But certainly the group in Kenilworth, Jane, 2 of my learners from your club go to that group.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite unusual for a U3A group in that apparently they're getting about 10 tables in a church hall, and they seem to play something approaching proper duplicate, whereas I know in rugby the groups in private houses, they often play Chicago, or not even as organized as that, you know, they're not necessarily scoring or whatever. But I just think myself, you should consider that while there could be traffic to the group, but there wouldn't be master points and things, would it? So, but there might be traffic the other way. You know, you might find if you get them in the room and they see the notice board and they feel comfortable that they know the place, they might come the other way.
Yeah.
So I do think it's worth considering if you can work out how to do it.
Yeah.
But because certainly there's a lot of people playing U3A, and I'm in close touch with Steve Carter in Norfolk, and his clientele is almost all U3A, and he just ran a big festival because they had their 40th anniversary in September, and he ran a bridge festival, and I knew all about it from Steve, and I was fascinated. It took 3 months to percolate to the knowledge of the local rugby groups. You know, I kept asking them, did they know about it? But eventually they did, and they partook, and it was all very, you know, it was a good thing. And in terms of people playing bridge, there's big numbers going on there. There definitely is. And anyway, welcome Tim. He seems to be there. We can now see Sam, which is great. I put some people your way, I hope, Sam, for your study of people that's played online or didn't play online in COVID. So I hope you're getting some people for that. I know you're doing a study.
Yeah, we are getting people. I don't know quite where they're coming from, so I don't know who's come from you or who hasn't. But yeah, if anyone else here has any people that they know of, we're doing a small study on, we call them the missing players, the ones that didn't play online at all. Some of whom have come back and some of whom haven't. So just we're basically looking for any bridge players who didn't play at all online or played less than like 10 times. So they may have played a bit and then just stopped. And it doesn't matter whether they are or aren't back. I suppose we're particularly interested in trying to speak to some of those who aren't back, because they're a real worry, the ones that have completely disappeared. I mean, the ones that are back, that's great, but even those we'd like to speak to, you know, to find out what their experience was like during lockdown without any bridge. But we're keen for either of those two groups. If anybody knows of anyone who'd be willing, we've got I mean, ironically, we've got an email survey, which obviously isn't best for this group, but that we're getting some people through that group because some people still have email, but also we're happy to do telephone interviews, because we appreciate that the people we really want to get at won't do email.
Yeah.
So if anyone can help, I can put my email in the chat, and if you know of anyone, either you give them my email and they contact me, or you ask permission to get their telephone number, to email me their telephone number and name, and then we can contact them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yes. I mean, I've got one who's so low tech she doesn't even do email, but she might do a phone thing. I'll ask her if she might.
Well, yeah, that would be great if you could.
Okay.
And then obviously we'll share what we find with everyone. I think it could be quite interesting.
Right. Okay.
I think it's quite that we did talk when we were coming out of COVID, and we haven't got round to it yet. And I'm not sure if we'd be shooting ourselves in the feet to do it now, but we did wonder whether we should have run anything in club to teach the people who we failed to encourage or get onto line during COVID how to do it, if they brought their tablets into the club and we ran a session in then. And we have talked about possibly doing that at some point, because it's such a useful thing as we all age, and hospitals and things like that. It's wonderful to be able to just play online, even though if you can't make it into the club. And I'm trying to sort of sell it to people that way, and whether it's worthwhile as running a session for them, I'm not sure. And then they'll all take off and play casually. And
well, yes, that's the risk, isn't it? I mean, I've seriously considered, because I'm sure as all of us, you've struggled with, and there's a cross at the top right hand side, and I thought I would love to just give a very short seminar to lots of people on just Windows, how to switch from a window to another, how to minimize and maximize, because there's an awful lot of people who use their computers, but they use them for very fixed things, and as soon as they're off-piste, and need to do something with a window, they're just lost. And you sort of underestimate how many people out there have computers and don't know very basic things like that, don't you?
But they're going to be a reducing group, because as people are retiring into it now, people are more competent as they come in. So it is a dwindling number. I don't know if I've already missed this, but may I ask Jonathan, because he sometimes disappears, what's happening? What's this fund? How much is in this fund that you're going to divvy out to? Oh, have we discussed this? I'm sorry.
No.
I was just going to say, before he answers, why did you have to call it a hardship fund? That makes it like applying to a Victorian Poor Law panel, I think. We should call it something more sort of encouraging.
Eat out it, yeah.
I don't really know much more than there's in the email. So I presume you're asking because you've seen the email. So yeah, I mean, as it says, it's the sort of suggested amount is around £250, but obviously we wouldn't be able to give that amount to every club, so that's why it's suggesting that it be a sort of last resort if clubs have something that they are very keen to do, which and they're not able to get the money from other sources.
Who's administering this?
Well, as it says, initial applications will be to Gordon.
Oh, he's doing it personally, because it doesn't actually say. Normally you'd say, oh, we have so much money that we're willing to redistribute, available. But it seems to be a very sort of ill-defined situation where you've got to fail at everything else, and how you're going to be shown to have done all those things before you can apply for it. It didn't. I wasn't sure what it was saying other than a lot of words.
I was sort of confused as to whether it was meant to be for capital items, or whether you're saying this is a contribution to your revenue for a period to cover shortfalls. I just wondering, I wasn't clear what the intention was for the money.
I think the intention is to help clubs. So I mean, the short answer is that if a club is struggling because of, I don't know, lots of rent piled up during COVID and they weren't able to pay, and now they've got a shortfall, and they need help to sort of tide them over, or then that's what the fund is for, is to support clubs. I think there might be some reluctance to prolong the agony for a club that was never had any realistic prospect of recovering. I suppose that's possible. So we want to be positive and want to help clubs and support them in their growth plans. But I don't think there's any need to sort of overanalyze what it's for. It's simply to support clubs, as far as I'm aware. And I'm very glad personally that the EBU has done this and has shown publicly that it's giving a positive response to clubs that need help. I mean, that's the way I would see it. I don't think there's any help at all, but that's as much as I know.
But we don't know how much is set aside for this, or how.
Well, I don't know that we need to know that. I don't know that there probably is a budget allocation. I don't know what it is. The AGM of the EBU is coming up very soon, so pop along there if you want to know more, I guess, if you're a shareholder and able to attend that. But I don't think we wanted to put a specific limit on it because it's to support clubs. If more clubs need our help, then we should review how much is available. But I think it's as simple as that.
And can I just one more? Previously, we were allowed to have a charity function or a party function once a year, or more, depending on how many attendances we'd had. Is that what's happening? Is that, are the criteria the same as they've been in the past? Because it would be very difficult for us to achieve the numbers we've done in the past when we've been shut such a lot in the last 12 months.
Yes, I mean, well, nothing has changed in that regard so far.
Well, I think you used to be able to have one party charity event free a year without paying UM, and that's vanished now. That's definitely gone. It's not in the codes anymore.
I thought it was.
No, it's still there and it still exists.
I couldn't find it last year when we did our Christmas party. It didn't seem to be there. Don't
you have to have over 10,000 attendances?
Everyone gets one free session, and then if you have more than 10,000 player sessions, then you get a second one.
Yeah, I looked into this the other day. It's all the same as ever. Children in Need is in addition to that. So any club can do Children in Need and plus one other session without charge. And then more, as Jonathan says, if you're a bigger club.
Okay, that's interesting, because I was convinced it had gone last year, which was why we made a decision this year. We've applied for a Blue Point license for our Christmas Swiss pairs, and it's definitely created some interest. We were already 15 tables out of 20 for the 10th of December. And I was going to say, when it comes to attracting stronger players back into the club, I wondered if we, thinking about using our Blue Point event allowance, because I think you can have 2 internal Blue Point events a year at your own discretion, kind of thing. And it's only when I think you have to advertise outside the club that you have to have a license. Isn't that right, Jonathan? Something like that?
That sounds about right. I don't know exactly offhand, but yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah,
I think that's one way we might get stronger players back in, because many of them are motivated by master points, aren't they? So if there are opportunities to learn Blue Points or something. I did once run a league that qualified for Blue Points, but I must say the complexities of how it qualified and how you calculated it were enormous, and I didn't do it again. But that might work for something like the Savile, where you're running a weekly event that goes on to a ladder. I think they call them ladder events. You could consider maybe Blue Pointing that.
Yeah. I'll have to look at that. Thank you.
I don't know if the EBU teaching thing is online yet. I don't think it was last time I looked.
Sam told me it's likely to go up today, so very soon.
Okay, that's great. So I was saying, I thought that was really, really good. And the thing I liked particularly was Charlie Bucknell's presentation, which I think was more focused on the things that make a difference between successful teaching and not successful teaching than anything I've seen for quite a while. You know, I think he did a great job. I would strongly recommend looking at that. And I was so inspired by the library thing. I'm seriously thinking of approaching our library. I've rather avoided it up to now because somehow hanging around in libraries isn't my thing. But I think I might actually talk to the library people in Rugby about it. Is anybody else thinking about doing something like that?
I regret it. I didn't see this, so I have no idea what the library thing is.
Well, the Suffolk had an initiative. The county got together with lots of the clubs and they made an arrangement with the library people in Suffolk, I mean all over Suffolk, I think, where they offered bridge beginners lessons in libraries, and it was enormously successful. I mean, literally hundreds of people came forward to learn bridge in a library. So it'll be worth watching the recording just for that, because they do talk about the details of that.
Oh, right.
It seems to have worked really well. And as I say, I think it's worth looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It was a fantastic scheme, and libraries are quite often a bit underused. We need, obviously, they're very precious at the moment with cuts everywhere, so we need to make full use of them. But I think the other point is the more general one, that if you can find a community organisation that you can work with, it builds pun not really intended bridges, and that is really worthwhile because you then get a bit of a crossover between your organisation and the one that you're partnering with, and it extends the sort of reach of the bridge opportunities. So really good principle there.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go back to what you said, Nikki, about your tip for Stirling Bridge Club was to forget about the evenings and just concentrate on afternoons for face-to-face sessions? I mean, that's quite depressing, isn't it? Because there's going to be a real issue age-wise in terms of that's cutting out players of working age. And if we are trying to bring in younger age groups, I mean, even the 40s, 50s, 60s even these days, up to 67, people are still working. So isn't that a bit of a concern if we just move to afternoon only? Like, I mean, the US has gone that way largely.
Yes. Yes, I know exactly what you're saying. I mean, it almost feels like you've given up on the working population, which I think to some extent we have in our club. I can only think of 2 or 3 people in rugby who are still working, who play. But the thing is, you gain so many people who are willing and able to come out in the afternoon, who won't come out in the evenings. And ironically, we've got 1 or 2 people who are starting to say they're packing up till the spring because it's dark when they drive home now from the club, you know. And I've seriously wondered, and I know 1 or 2 other clubs, I think, have brought their afternoon start time forward half an hour to try and avoid going home in the dark. But I think it's just how it is. I think this is where being able to learn bridge online initially is a good thing. And I'm doing an evening beginners class, but nobody in it, I have to say, is, oh no, 1 person is still working. And then after that, I don't know what you do, to be honest. Perhaps you give them online competitions, but it's just, you get much more success being open in the afternoon. You just do.
I suppose one issue though, so working people playing bridge online is a pain because it's just all screen. You work on screen and then you play on screen. And I mean,
Yes.
I think there's problems with eye health that haven't even come to light really.
Yes.
Because of this.
I think you may well be right, but the days of working people. I mean, my husband, who's played bridge for longer than me solidly, I mean, he used to drive all over the county after work in county leagues and things like that. But nobody's going to do that anymore, I don't think. But we do have, I mean, the other bridge club in rugby's got one evening that's doing okay, and there's an unaffiliated one that is doing okay. So, some people can, but we're back to 8, 10, 11 tables now in the afternoons. And I know we wouldn't get that in the evenings. I mean, Jane, you brought back your Tuesday evening, didn't you? Which used to be the big one. And it's 4 or 5 tables when I looked the other day.
We were down to 3 the other day. When we launched it in June, we started off with 9 tables, and then it petered out a bit. And then last night we're back up to 6, which is really good. But it's difficult. I think if everybody turned up on the same night, we could field 10 tables, but they just don't, and you can't make them. So
yeah.
I'm not sure how long it will go on over Christmas. You know, we're hoping it'll carry on, but in the new year when it gets really cold and miserable, so difficult.
Yeah. And I think reaching working people who are busy would take a sustained, effective publicity campaign that we haven't got yet. You know, maybe one day we will, but we just don't have now. And I think that's one of the things that I worry about is the fading awareness of the existence of bridge, you know. And I don't know, I was seriously thinking the other day that we should try and convince people there are scandals in bridge, because at least we get some publicity when that happens.
No such thing as bad publicity. Yeah?
Well, exactly. I've always been a big believer of that. Do you remember years ago when in Lytham St Anne's somebody went home and stabbed their wife because she'd played so badly? There was quite a lot of publicity around that. And, I don't know if you remember, because the guy who did the stabbing, I think he was called Steve Green, and there used to be a very well-known player in Coventry called Steve Green.
Yeah.
And he got up apparently one night just after this. He got up in the club and he said, "I am called Steve Green. I've never been to Lytham St Anne's, and my wife is just fine." You know, talking about it.
Yeah.
But yes, we need something like that. I mean, I wish, because sometimes one thing you can do is get bridge into plot lines on soaps and things like that. I think if we could do that, I know they had to go in Coronation Street some years back, but it didn't really work terribly well.
The publicity one, Nikki, we tried a poster program in the summer to try and encourage people to come along to our lessons. And I would say it didn't cost us a lot of money, but I wouldn't say it was terribly successful. But one thing that was just a sort of by the way, locally, I suppose most communities do have a sort of little freebie magazine that comes round through everybody's letterbox every so often, advertising, you know, plumbers and whatever it might be. And there is a section in there which gives a list of local organisations and clubs. So I contacted the editor of that for our local area and got them to include our details of our club, and it went in all the editions that go around the whole of the Greater Warrington area, and we've had 1 or 2 people turn up out of that, say, "Oh, I saw your details in there," and they phone us up and they've come along. So that was completely free. That worked quite well. So if that exists in your area, I think people should take advantage of it. Just get your name in the local freebie.
I completely agree with that, Jim. My recommendation, or our recommendation, is the smaller the better in one sense. If there's a little street that goes around a housing estate, you know, that is a brilliant place to advertise. It probably costs nothing, and you get a good response because people are very interested in hyper local, like next door and you know the things that are super local. Whereas you put an ad in the local press that goes to all the towns in the area, and it's completely useless. Nobody looks at it. So yeah, the smaller the better, and word of mouth. Just going back to the bridge thing, I think. Sorry, the image of bridge thing. I think it is a very big problem that we are all thinking about very hard. I don't know what we can do about it, but what I would say is that what Jim is talking about, running bridge lessons, it is the best possible thing to do because the people who turn up are probably going to be younger than the people in your club on average. That's certainly been our experience in Winchester, as Bob will confirm. And there is also an interesting avenue now through children, oddly enough. It's great to teach young children bridge, and there are ways of doing that now, even online. There's a thing called BridgeWiz that we were discussing the other day. And what you do is you get your club members, you get them to get their grandchildren signing up for this if you can, and that's super rewarding when it works. Another possibility is to work with local schools, but there's a lot more work involved in doing that. But what you find is when you get the young kids involved, there might be just sort of 8 or 9, the parents of those children become interested, and they start saying, well, my child is playing bridge and enjoying it, you know, can I learn? And you can get a bit of a momentum that way. So and just a strategy you might think of to begin to get some younger people into the club. I think it's really worth it. So, but yeah, a huge issue, and one that we all need to think about very hard.
Yes, yes.
I'm
Well,
afraid
so
I'm going to have to go now, but thank you very much. See you next time. Okay, have a lovely Christmas.
Okay.
No, will we have another one before? Is this the last-
okay, well, let's have a show of hands, because I did say we could do one in December. I think I put a date in, might have been, because we either do that or we skip it and go to the 18th of January. Who would like one in December? Okay, that's not huge enthusiasm. Right. Okay. Let's skip December and go for, I think the 18th of January was the one I thought of, Jane, which should be the first day of my new beginners course at your place, if that takes off.
We get it going. All right. Well, thank you very much. Bye.
Okay.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Right. So I don't think I have any other burning things to say. I'm glad other people are experiencing a bit of an upturn. Go on, Reg.
I'm going as well.
Okay. All right then. Thank you for coming. See you in January. Have a good Christmas. Yes, I'm so glad other people are seeing a bit of an upturn, because I was surprised, because August was good. Then September, I felt there was a bit of a downer. It felt like everybody went, the kids are back at school, we can go on holiday now. But October's definitely been pick up, and 1 or 2 people have walked back into our supervised practice who haven't been playing. So it really has been good. Really has been good. And as I say, we're going to have a blue pointed Swiss pears, which we've never done before. But that'll be interesting. What are other people who just got mince pies and a glass of wine planned, or what for Christmas?
Well, we've got a Christmas dinner planned at Winchester, as I said, which is proving very popular, pretty well sold out. And I'm really encouraged that now that we've got into November, well into November, the attendances are holding up, because I was expecting people to do what you said, Nikki. We just have evening sessions. We can't get the room for daytime sessions. So it's good that they're not all going back to the comfort of playing online only, and that they're still coming out to play evening bridge. And I think it's largely a matter of confidence with our members, that they know we've got a safe environment, a comfortable room which is warm to play, and a good car park close by. So, you know, we've got to do everything we can to try and keep it comfortable and attractive for them through the winter. And I think if we do that, things will continue to flourish.
That's great. Yes, good. Good. Okay, right. Well, if we've run out of things to say, we could call it a year. And I'm always interested if anybody wants to suggest something I focus on gathering data about clubs. Now is a good time to tell me, because as I said before, I'm changing my strategy because my web monitoring service suddenly doubled its fees, and I decided it had gone beyond hobby cost, you know, so I'm now going to do it differently. And I'm thinking about sending out surveys to clubs, and if some of you would be willing to be a guinea pig for me to try and get the form right and things, that would be a big help. But I know table money, I think, is of interest to us all. Numbers is of interest. I've got quite accurate now on what sort of premises people have, so I might sort of do a pie chart of that. But anything else people think it's worth understanding about clubs, do suggest it, because once I do a survey, I can't change the data in that very much. I'm sure Sam would be horrified at my practices. I'm probably all terribly impure and non-academic and wrong, but there's enough of it for me to think it says something.
I mean, I think it's great. Some of the data that you've been collecting, I think, has been very impressive to see. Would you be able to ask about how many of their players they estimate are missing players, the ones that didn't just disappeared and didn't go online at all in lockdown? And out of those, how many do they think are back, and how many do they think they just haven't seen yet at all? So it's kind of two questions there. Who didn't go online or almost never went online, so less than 10 times, or never at all. And of those, how many do they estimate have come back, and how many do they think they've just disappeared? And I suppose I'd like to ask the others of you, what do you think have happened to those players that just didn't go online and haven't come back yet? Are they lost forever? Can we get them back? I don't know what's happening at all your different clubs, and what is the percentage we're talking about here? I mean, I know what the percentage was towards the start of lockdown. I think people talked between 40 to 60% were going online, and then those numbers kind of went up and up. But I don't really know, you know, what this percentage is. Maybe 30% that disappeared, or is it less than that?
No, I don't think it would be more than that. I know what surprised me. We had some that were strong face to face and didn't like online, and they came back quite quickly when we went online. What has surprised me, I mean, we've now started this supervised play on a Tuesday afternoon, and I push it very hard as here's a chance to come back and just get cards in your hand again and get your confidence back. And I think about every other week a face I haven't seen for a long time walks in, often looking very nervous, and often, I'm sorry to say, people who've been pretty ill. They often look quite frail, but they do come back and they do try it, and they do seem to carry on. So I'd have to say there's a lot of people I didn't think I would see again who are showing up, you know, and it's definitely happening. So I think my guess now would be we lost about 5% of our original membership for good. That would be my guess now.
I think what some people are doing, I wouldn't be able to put a number on it, but people are not coming to the club. They're not playing in a formal online session. But what they're doing is they're playing with some friends on BBO, and they've got their WhatsApp on their phone, and they're chatting to each other and having a friendly free game on BBO once a week or whatever. So the bridge is going on, but it's under the radar all the time. And how you get those people back into the club, I really don't know.
Yeah, I think they come back slowly, and it's word of mouth is great. If somebody in the group has been to a session or knows someone who has, you'll find they'll say, oh, so and so is interested in coming. WhatsApp is brilliant. Our WhatsApp group's now got 40 members, and it's amazingly good at people finding partners and finding the confidence to come back. I've been very surprised. I didn't really know what WhatsApp was until we did it, but it's.
Totally agree with that, Nikki. We've opened a WhatsApp group, set up a WhatsApp group for people to find partners, particularly at short notice. It works far better than using the sort of Bridge website to look for a partner system. Yes. And people have, if their partner cries off even during the same day, they get fixed up for the evening with someone else. It's great. Yes. It is really good. Yeah.
Yes. Right. Super. I think probably we've just about time to wrap up. Anybody got anything else they want to say? All right. Well, we'll see you on the 18th of December, and I'll do a newsletter in between.
December.
Thanks very much, Nikki. Very useful. Thank you.
Sorry, January. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, January. I meant January. Good. Okay. Brilliant. Have a good Christmas. Bye for now.
Thanks, all. Merry Christmas.